O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, my companion and my teacher, O my great wealth and deliverer, O my good fortune and bliss, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. Anantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The living entity in the bodily conception of life is absorbed in the body, which is a combination of the physical elements, the five senses for gathering knowledge, and the five senses of action, along with the mind. Through the mind, the living entity suffers three kinds of tribulation: Adibhotika, Adidevika, and Adhyatmika. Those are the three klesha and the three main sufferings. Therefore, the body is the source of all miseries. Purport. In the 5th canto, 554, while instructing his sons, Rishabdev said, Anam api kleshada ashadeha. The body, although temporary, is the cause of all the miseries of material existence. As already discussed in the previous verse, the entire material creation is based on mental concoction. The mind sometimes induces us to think that if we purchase an automobile, we can enjoy the physical element, such as earth, water, air and fire, combined in the form of plastic, iron, petrol and so on. This is so amazing, Prabhupada, how he writes that sometimes we think by getting an automobile, we will enjoy the five elements. Very far out vision. Working with the five material elements, Panchabhutas, as well as with our five knowledge-gathering senses, like the eyes, ear, tongue, and the five active senses, like the hands and legs, we become involved in the material condition. Thus we are subjected to the tribulation known as Adhyatmika, Adidevika, Adibhotika. The mind is the center, because the mind creates all those things. As soon as the material object is struck, however, the mind is affected and we suffer. For example, with the material elements, the working senses and the knowledge-gathering senses, we create a very nice car. And when the car is accidentally smashed in a collision, the mind suffers. And through the mind, the living entity suffers. The fact is that the living entity, while concocting with the mind, creates the material condition. Because matter is destructible, through material condition, the living entity suffers. Otherwise, the living entity is detached from all material condition. When one comes to Brahman platform, the platform of spiritual life, fully understanding that he is a spiritual soul, Aham Brahmasmi, he is no longer affected by lamentation and hankering. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 1854, Brahmabhuta prasanatma na sochati na kankshati. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, the Lord says, Mamevam sho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastan-indriyani prakritistani kashati. The living entity in the conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. The living entity is actually part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is unaffected by material condition. But because the mind, mana, is affected, the senses are affected, and the living entity struggles for existence within this material world. The verse one more time. The living entity, in the bodily conception of life, is absorbed in the body, which is the combination of the physical elements, the 5 senses for gathering knowledge, and the 5 senses of action, along with the mind. Through the mind, the living entity suffers 3 kinds of tribulation, adibodhika, adidevika, and adhyatmika. Therefore, the body is a source of all miseries. Wow, today is heavy. So if you like, you can join me with prayers. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Sholakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmei Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svaparantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambujo Radha Madana Mohano Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master with the torchlight of knowledge has opened my eyes. Therefore I offer him my respectful obeisances. So today we are dealing with a verse that we could say is quite pessimist. Suffering, the body is just like the place where all the suffering, because of the attachment to the body or the conditioning with the body, or absorption, even he used the words, being absorbed into the body, then all the sufferings are generated, and it goes through the mind. The mind is the filter through which the soul is connected. So there are the senses, the body, the mind, and of course intelligence is also there, but this is like the link. The mind is the main link between us as living entity and what is happening around us, happiness or suffering. It gets all filtrated there into the mind. So Prabhupada gave an interesting solution in the purport. He said that when we understand our nature, that we are spiritual souls and our aim is to serve the Lord, then we have no more lamentation. And he quote from Bhagavad Gita, when one is in this stage of Brahmabhuta, understanding his real identity, then he is not anymore affected by the miseries and by the mind. So today we will, the principle is that through the mind the living entity suffers and enjoys. And we will see the state of the mind, how the state of the mind determines our vision. Because how our mind is tuned, we will see life in different ways. We will see how all the sufferings come from the mind, through the mind, and we will see how to deal with it, how to control the mind, how to control the mind. So the first point on the state of mind determines our vision of reality. There were once 2 sons of alcoholic father, and one of the sons became alcoholic, and the other son never touched any drop of alcohol. So people, some journalists or like this, they were checking out what situation in like this, and they asked the first son who was drinking alcohol. They say, "Your father is alcoholic. Why are you drinking alcohol?" And the son said, "Well, my father was drinking all the time. I was all the time with him when he drank, and therefore I drank because he was drinking, and I was influenced by him." And then they asked the other one, who was never drinking any alcohol, "Why you never drank alcohol?" And he said, "Well, because I was with my father and I saw how he was doing, and I understood I never want to do that, therefore I never touch." So we see two brothers, one father, same circumstance, but two could get the situation totally different and act totally different in their life. So according to our vision, according to our mental frame, we will see the world in different ways. And we can see also that in Dhritarashtra and Vidura, both had actually very, very opposite perception of the world, or vision of the world. Like Vidura, he was all the time in victim mentality. He was always thinking, "I'm a victim. It's not good enough. It's not good enough, and things are not." Yeah, he was all the time more or less complaining about the situation that was. And we see Vidura, who was actually always grateful in life. So we see Dhritarashtra was actually very, very attached, and he had both. He was like born in a kingdom. He was actually the king, more or less, but because he was blind and like this, it was. So he had everything. He had like all riches, everything, but he was feeling bad. "Oh, I'm blind." So he was seeing the negative side, and he was focusing on the negative side. But Vidura had been born into a family of the mother was a maidservant, but he was also supposed to receive the kingdom if he will not have been son of a maidservant. So, but Vidura did not think, "Oh, so bad, I cannot be the king, I have so much power, I have so much intelligence, I can do so much." No, he was just happy. "Oh, I'm able to be there in this situation." And this we can see, according to our frame of mind, we will be able to be either grateful, or either we will focus on the difficulty, on the what we don't have, and we will feel, "Oh, it's not just, it's not proper," and feel like to be the victim of situation in life. Dhritarashtra was also very attached. Actually, Vastra means the land, or Avastra. How was it? I wrote it. Rastra. Rastra means land, and Drita means holding. Drita Vrata, we hear sometimes like holding a vow. So Dhritarashtra was the one who is holding the land, very, very attached to the situation. But Vidura was very, very detached. Like Vidura was always trying to give wisdom to Dhritarashtra. And when the war of Kurukshetra was ready to start, Vidura came and said to Dhritarashtra, it's the last chance. Give a kingdom to the Pandava and let's not this war take place. But Dhritarashtra was not happy, and Duryodhana heard that, and he spoke very heavy words to Vidura. He said, "You always have been against us since beginning. You always you are not supposed even to live in our kingdom. Go away." And then Vidura said, "Okay, let me go." And he left without any resentment. He did not have any bad feeling toward them. He just felt, okay, this is the desire of the Lord. So that was the other vision of Vidura, very flexible. And I mean, all what I'm telling you now is coming from Swayam Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj, was giving a seminar in Switzerland. And he was saying, this is what we want to become as devotees, to become very flexible. Like the river will follow where the space is, and will just continue flowing according to how the land is. And he was saying that Vrajabasis, Vraja, the land of Vrindavan. Vraja means to move. Another meaning of Vraja means to move. And he explained that the Brijbasis, the devotees of the Lord, actually, they are always moving according to the desire of the Lord. The Lord say, okay, we'll leave Mahavan, we will go now to Vrindavan, there are too many demands. Okay, let's go. Everyone will just move according to the plans of Krishna. And that's, I found very beautiful. I even thought that can be my guideline for this pilgrimage this year, to try to really be in the flow, to try to be moved by the Lord wherever the Lord wants to bring me. There was once a disciple who was his spiritual master. He said, Guru Maharaj, now comes Kartik, I will be in Vrindavan and I will take very strong vows. And the spiritual master said, yes, it's good, but it maybe your vows will deprive you from the mercy of the Lord. Maybe the Lord send you a situation where you can receive a lot of mercy, but you will say, no, I have my vrata, I have my vow, I have to do my vow, I will not, and you will refuse the mercy of the Lord just because of your vow. So this is, I think, very important for the devotees, that we learn this art of being moved by the Lord, and whatever happened in our life, to accept it as the wish of the Lord and try to go along with the flow. So that was, again, different types of perception according to the different person, according to Vidura or according to Dhritarashtra. One was very strongly holding and suffering, and Vidura was very, very letting go and was very happy, and because he had connection. Actually, Vidura was connected, therefore he could see like this, and we will come to that a little bit later. The last example connected to Dhritarashtra and Vidura was the ability to forgive. Dhritarashtra could never forgive the Pandavas for having been against the Kauravas. And it is said that there is description that when Dhritarashtra left the palace, at the end Vidura convinced him, they went to the Himalayas and he did austerities, and then went, it is said he reached liberation or something like this. And Swayam Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj said he did not reach the spiritual world. But he said, but why? Because the Pandavas, they did not keep any offense or any bad feeling toward him. So he was free from this weight. So why he did not reach to the spiritual world? And the answer given in one of the purport of Prabhupada, because he still had bad feeling toward the Pandavas. He was still seeing the Pandavas like, because of you, my sons have died. So just because of that, he could not reach higher destination. And it shows how much in our lives sometimes it's difficult to forgive. We see, sometimes we say, yeah, I forgive you, but inside we still keep a type of grudge inside, and that shows actually to go back to Godhead, we should be free from any grudge toward any person. So also from one frame of mind of Dhritarashtra, there was this inability to actually forgive. But from the side of Vidura, there was like full forgiveness, no matter what happened, full acceptance. And Maharaj said, when the goal of life is not to remember all the bad things people did to us, the goal of life is to remember all good things Krishna arranged for us. And he said, if our mind is full of those grudges and of seeing what people did bad to us, then how will we think of Krishna? How will we feel some gratitude toward Krishna? How will we see the arrangements of Krishna? So this is something that we want to let go. So that was to show how all the vision that we have is actually going through our mind, and according to our frame of mind, we will perceive the world, and we can perceive the world in very, very different way. Maharaj explained that like Arjuna, he was in the beginning on the battlefield, and he dropped his bow, and he said, I will not fight. And then Krishna speaks to him the Bhagavad Gita, and 45 minutes later, Arjuna says, okay, I will fight. So his whole vision, his whole perspective has totally switched by the words of Krishna. And this is actually when we come in contact to spiritual wisdom, actually spiritual wisdom and the power of association, that can make a full turn into our mental frame so that we can see things in a totally different way. Vidura was preaching to Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra finally could change his frame of mind and could see it in a proper way. And that shows us how much Krishna consciousness is actually there to help us to transform our vision, to transform our mind frame so that we can see the world in a different way. So now that was a little for the first point, how everything is filtered through our mind, and according to our frame of mind we can see things very, very differently. And now we see how all the sufferings are coming through the mind, and that was also confirmed into the verse where it is said that those three kleshas, they actually all touch us through the mind. You know, the three kleshas is the suffering that comes from other living entities, the sufferings that comes from devatas or earthquake or situation out there, and suffering coming from the mind and the body. But if you feel pain in the body, it will filter through the mind. And if there is someone giving you pain, they will give you pain either on the body or either on the mind, and this again filters through the mind. So everything is practically everything is filtered through the mind and come on the soul, on the living entity. And it's interesting because we know the soul is fully eternal, full of bliss, full of knowledge. But in the purport, Prabhupada said when the mind experiences sufferings, then the soul also get sufferings because of the identification of the soul with the mind and the body. So everything actually is transferred through the mind. And one explanation is also in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna said that for one who conquers the mind, the super soul is reached. That means when the mind is actually controlled on Krishna, then there is no suffering anymore that can reach to the soul, because the super soul is rich and the person is all the time connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Maharaj was saying pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So you cannot stop pain, but suffering you can, because according to the vision you will have, you will not suffer if you can see the things in a proper way. And there is this story of the Avanti Brahmana. This is, we spoke shortly last time I gave a lecture, and I researched a little yesterday. He was one Brahmana who was living in the town of Avanti. And this Brahmana, before he started to become a Brahmana, he was an agriculturist. He was making agriculture. And he was like a merchant, businessman, but he was extremely greedy, miser, and he was often getting angry. And because he was a miser, he was keeping everything for himself. All his family members and friends, they did not enjoy life. He did not give them anything to enjoy life. So they turned against him. They steal his wealth, and they spoke harsh words, and they abandoned him. So he was there, he did not have anyone, and then he started to go into the path of renunciation. And then in this path of renunciation, he started to how you say, to realize God. And he even felt grateful. He said, thank you, God, by the situation that I'm in now. That shows you must have been pleased with me, that you give me this situation. You give me now this offering, that means you are pleased with me, you are kind with me. And people were very, very heavy to him. He took sannyas, he took the full order of renunciation. He was going to beg for food, and people were just smashing him heavy, speaking heavy to him. And once someone came to him and said, but how do you tolerate so much pain, so much harsh words? He said, harsh words are more painful than arrows shooted in your heart. Words are even. So they say, how do you tolerate that? And the Avadhuta Brahmana said, I understand from where the pain comes, therefore I can tolerate it. And he said, the pain is not coming because of my karma. The pain is not coming because of time. The pain is not coming from demigods. And he quotes so many places we think maybe the pain is coming from. He said the pain is only coming through the mind. This is the only, therefore I can tolerate it, because I know it's just the mind. My Guru Maharaj was saying in Janmastami lecture, don't take the mind too serious. Easy to say, but sometimes the mind is making so many stories and so many things that it's actually sometimes good to laugh about that and not take it too serious. So that was for the point of how all the sufferings are coming through the mind, and at the end, how to control the mind. There are many different. I mean, that could be a week seminar about the mind. That is a very topic that comes again and again and again and again in Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me maybe ask you, Nino, what is how will you control your mind?
Kannst du mal auf Deutsch sagen? Kannst du mal auf Deutsch sagen? Wie ich meinen Geist kontrolliere?
Ja, wie kannst du deinen Geist kontrollieren?
Ja, indem ich ihn mit positiven Tätigkeiten beschäftige.
Okay, in positive activity.
Also in Krishnas Dienst.
To engage in the service.
Zum Beispiel mich an Krishna erinnern.
Okay, super.
Über ihn sprechen.
Yeah. And that's super. That's one of the answers I had from here. By engaging the mind, connecting the mind with Krishna, trying to remember Krishna, trying to think, how can I serve him nicely? Because thinking is a function of the mind, one of the main function of the mind. So thinking, how will I serve the Lord? How will I do my service nicely? Engaging the mind and activities with the Lord. That's a very...
Vom Abschweifen immer wieder zurückholen. Immer wieder auf Krishna fixieren. Immer vom Abschweifen immer wieder zurückholen.
To bring the mind always back to Krishna. Okay, very good. Yeah. Bhakti Prabhava Swami was saying that when we engage the mind in devotional service, then bhakti is activated, because we cannot do, if our mind is not connected, we can do activities, but it's not full bhakti. But if our mind is also connected, it's full bhakti. And when our mind, heart is connected, then the false ego is dissolving. That's a Kapila Dev mentioned. Like sometimes you have aspirin, you put in the water, and after a few minutes, everything is gone, dissolved. So this is the effect of bhakti. Bhakti is dissolving the false ego, like the stomach is digesting all the food without us knowing. The bhakti is dissolving the false ego, even without us noticing. And that's when we engage with body and mind in the service. What is about someone else? Anandamayi, how are you going to control the mind?
I think for me it's a very practical way to stay, to have subordinate position in the Gemeinschaft.
Society. Yeah.
And if you have your senses, because
Mm.
it's not about you, it's about something higher.
Mm. Very nice, very, very beautiful. And that's also, we hear Vritasura. We were having the story of Vritasura before. In the middle of the battlefield, he has a prayer, and he say, "Oh, when will I become the servant of your servant of your servant? Then my mind will always be able to remember you and to think about you by being in this subordinate position." And then one is not too much thinking, I have to control everything, but the mind gets more peaceful, and we can. I mean, it can also depend according to the nature. Some nature are more happy like this, and some nature are more like they need to control, the more Kshatriya type, and they need. Thank you, it's nice. You have, Olga, maybe something? Some thoughts?
Through japa, through reading shastras,
Mm-hmm.
listening to lectures
Mm-hmm.
of spiritual masters, and of course our association with devotees,
Yeah.
discussing.
Thank you. Thank you. This is very. That's really the place where we need to have some mind control. If we are sitting in a lecture but we are all the time preoccupied for something, just don't get anything out of it. If we change japa and our mind is, we don't get. But that's actually really the time when we can practice, bring the mind back, and it's actually on my thoughts. I had like both. We have to do some effort to control the mind, and that's very much in during our spiritual practice. I find myself easier to control the mind when I read, because in the beginning I have to bring the mind back a little bit stronger, but after 10-15 minutes of reading, then I can actually absorb quite easily. But with japa, there is a little bit more challenging, and there is a need of certain eagerness or certain sankalpa, or type of vow. Okay, now I will really try to bring my mind. Now you need a certain type of determination, otherwise the mind will just take you. You are too weak. So there is like a need inside of building up our determination, almost like coaching. And you coach the mind. Okay, let's do it. We'll now stay with the holy name. And there is need of strength from our side to go. And that's also connected to our desire. If we have a desire to connect, if we have desire to be with Krishna, then it will be natural to have some sankalpa. Sankalpa is like formulation of a desire, more or less. So that's something that we can try to cultivate or to do on our side. But in the other side, we often hear that we have not much chance, that actually by the mercy of the Lord and by the mercy of the spiritual master, we have much more chance to control our mind. Often the mercy will come when we do our part of endeavor. Sometimes it comes without, and that's wonderful. Sometimes it comes later on. You do a lot of effort, nothing comes, and then later on you don't do any effort, and suddenly it comes. Krishna is his own timings, in which way he gives his mercy is fully. That's actually one way of surrender, to accept Krishna's timing in giving us his mercy. So that was Shanta Prabhu. You can say a few words in English about how you deal with the mind. Or you can say Anandamai can translate. Or maybe Olga can.
Some disciples came to Prabhupada and
Mm-hmm.
asked him how to control the mind. And Prabhupada said different things to disciples. To one disciple he said, you will never be able to control your mind. Give your mind to Lord Chaitanya.
You remember what Krishna... Thank you. You remember what Krishna told Arjuna about that? Krishna said, the mind is so strong, like stronger than the wind. And then Krishna says something. Anyone remembers? What is Krishna's advice? He says, suitable practice, like proper practice, like japa chanting and like this, and detachment. Not be attached. If it works, it doesn't work, no matter what. Suitable practice and detachment. So that was a little bit what I prepared for today. The title of the lecture is "The Mind is Amazing," and we were seeing how, according to our frame of mind, we perceive the world, and that goes back to this point that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, because according to our frame of mind, we will suffer or not, according to how we react toward the pain. And we were seeing, we had quite sometimes about different type of vision according to our frame of mind, and connected to Duryodhana and Vidura. And then we had the Avanti Brahmana, who was telling us that all sufferings are going through the mind and coming from the mind. There is nothing else, just the mind that gives us suffering. And at the end, some thoughts on how to control the mind. So I thank you for your attention. I don't know if you have any questions, any comments.
I just have a little comment. Guru Maharaj gave a lecture in September, and he said that, according that you was speaking about forgiveness and about the situation with Dhritarashtra and Vidura, Guru Maharaj spoke with this sentence, one person get, and then forget, and another person give, and forgive. It's amazing. Also these two different perceptions.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, okay.
You said that we should try to go with the flow and trust Krishna and not to try to control and But if, for example, there is time to go with the flow, and we notice that it's not so easy, that we still have attachments, and it's not easy to let go with the flow. So maybe you have some ideas what could help to let go and go with the flow, to build up this attachment and trust Krishna.
I think it's very much connect. Thank you. It's a nice question. How to be able to go through the flow and be flexible in situation of life, and because we have still some attachment, and it's not always easy. I think one of the main things is connected to the modes of material nature, because when the passion or ignorance are prominent, then it's very difficult. You are not even aware of what things are happening. You are just like lost in the movie, let's say like this. But only when Sattva Gun is there, then at least you can perceive, okay, the flow is going in that direction, and I'm not willing to go that in that direction. You can reflect, what is the attachment that is blocking me from following the flow. So only when Sattva Gun is prominent, then you get a chance to observe the situation and see the difference, and then from there you can start to pray. I mean, first you need to get convinced yourself that the flow is driving you where you want to go, and that's fulfilling your real interest. That's what you really look in your life for, this real happiness, for this eternal happiness, for this blissful service to the Lord, and like. So when you understand, okay, that's really where I want, then you can pray to the Lord, please remove those obstacles that are blocking me now to go in that direction, I would say. But yeah, please.
And how can we know if this flow comes from Krishna? always just maybe that car or something else.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if
yeah.
you're coming from Krishna, is Krishna what he wants from you? Or is it...
Mm-hmm. I mean, usually to check that out, you have Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. If the flow brings you in the direction that is, let's say, connected to what the scripture said, what the Guru and Sadhu says, then you know it's in the flow of Krishna. But if it's not really, if it's not sure, or if it might be something else, because it's subtle. It's subtle. Sometimes you might say, yeah, it's for Krishna, but actually it's for me, and it's nourishing my own attachment. So it can be sometimes a little bit subtle. So one of the answers will be just make sure on the gross level that is following Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And for more subtleties, I think there are actually devotees who are close to you, who knows you, who loves you. Then they might be able to maybe even speak to you and help you to unpack the thoughts, unpack the feelings, and check out, okay, is it really for Krishna, or no, here it's something else behind, and like this. So I think when it gets a little bit more subtle, it's good to have devotees like Shiksha Gurus or like the spiritual master, when he can be there and check out, okay, is the flow really driving me in the direction for my eternal benefit, or is it just mental, is it still desires that are pushing me in the flow, and that's not really the flow I really want. So some clarification, and for that we need help. It might sometimes come through prayer, but most of the times it comes, Krishna most of the time speak to us through the devotees. Sometimes some devotee can hear the voice of the Lord, of Paramatma in the heart, but even if that happened, Krishna said, I come as the spiritual master and I confirm it. So even if we can hear it, it's actually still confirmed by the Vaishnavas around. Yeah? Thank you. Okay, then we'll stop here. Thank you. We are leaving today with Vajayanti to India, and we wish you a wonderful time in Golokadam, wonderful Kartik, and please, even if there are not so many devotees, sometimes keep coming to the program, supporting each other, listening Bhagavatam, speaking Bhagavatam. This is the place where we receive strength. And we receive the strength to do our service properly later on. We do service during the day, but those morning program is there to set our consciousness, turn our consciousness, set our mind in the proper way, that during the day we can do our service with love and devotion. So, wish you all the best, and we will pray for you, we'll roll in the dust for you, and we hope you will do good. Garantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.